Welcome. Hi, friends. Welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. And if you want, while we're waiting for a few more folks to show up, please go ahead and put in the chat bar, say your name, just tell us where you're from. It'd be nice to hear from you. Oh, lots of Colorado and California. Nice to see you. Scottsdale and Chicago and DC. And Massachusetts and Maryland. I happen to know that Lisa from Ridgeway is actually in Hawaii right now. Hello, sweetheart. Hello, Portland and New Jersey. Hello, Canada and Georgia, Pennsylvania and New Hampshire. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Rhode Island and Seattle. Madison. Thank you. I knit the scarf myself. Oh, thank you. Welcome, West Virginia and Maine. Welcome to Florida and Michigan and Asheville. Welcome, everyone. Jenna, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Thank you. Hi, and welcome everyone. My name is Jenna Kirkpatrick, and I am the manager of outreach and engagement for Evermore. Evermore is a national nonprofit, and we are based out of Washington, D.C. And for over 10 years, we have worked with Congress, the White House, and multiple federal agencies to advance common sense, human centered policies, including securing paid bereavement leave for our U.S. armed forces. We advocate for meaningful policy change, advance bereavement science, and cultivate innovative programming among communities nationwide. We are very honored to host these workshops with our Evermore Poet Laureate, Rosemerry Wahtola Trommer. Please visit us when you can at evermore.org to learn more about our mission to make the world a more livable place for all bereaved people. We will also be sharing a special newsletter with you after this workshop called Evermore Voices, and it will contain the recording from this workshop, the collaborative poem that we write tonight, the featured poems, and invitations to write from Rosemerry as well. I am also a poet and a bereaved mom, and every morning I read Rosemary's poetry, and one that struck my heart recently was called How We Momentarily Become the Moon, and I loved reading this on the wolf moon. In the dark house, we watch the moon rise through the window, watch as its fullness climbs into the sky. For everything we see, so much we miss. But in this moment, your hand in mine, we give the moon all our attention until every part of us, even our wounds, are shining. My wish tonight is that the words that are shared hold each of you in community and understanding. Together, we are here to hold this important space. Let's just take a few seconds for some deep breaths in silence to acknowledge all of our precious light and energy together. Thank you for being here. Please join me in offering a warm welcome to our gracious friend and poet laureate, Rosemerry Wahtola Trommer.
Thank you, Jenna. And thank you to Evermore. I really want to emphasize that Evermore is making this program possible. I'm so grateful for the work that they do. Thanks for telling us a little more about it, Jenna. I do encourage you to go check out Evermore, evermore.org. So, Welcome, friends. Keisha, would you mind just for a moment, please? And I want to thank Keisha for being our tech person tonight. She's incredible. Would you please make it so it's gallery view just for a moment so that we can see each other? If you aren't on, if your camera's off, of course that's okay. But if just for this moment you're willing to turn your camera on so that you could lean in and see the other people who are here and let them see you too, and just say, don't turn your don't turn on your volume, please. But there in your room, please say hello and welcome all of the other people who've chosen to be here, and feel how you are not only welcoming them, but you too. You are being welcomed. Welcome. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. I'm going to invite you right now, if you have one, to light a candle. And as you do, and if you don't have a candle, that's fine. But if you do have one, light it. And you can just light an imaginary candle if you wish. But as we do it, I'm going to invite you to think of the person or the thing that you are grieving. It could be a person, but of course, it could also be uh, civility. It could be a relationship. There are so many things that we grieve. And so I'm going to invite you to say the name of that out loud as you light your candle. And if you wish, also you can put it in the chat bar, the name or names of the people or things that you're bringing their energy with us tonight. And I invite you to remember that you have been given this love light to carry. So for Finn and Dad and Kira and Bree. And if you want to put in the chat bar, I see you are. Thank you for just saying the names of who is it, who are these people and these beloveds that we're grieving. I want to open too with a little song that I've adapted from a poem by Gregory Orr. If you want to close your eyes again, sometimes it goes in a little easier that way. Growing through grief, this deepening we didn't choose. Growing through grief, this deepening we didn't choose. You could sing along if you want. Growing through grief, this deepening we didn't choose. Growing through grief, this deepening we didn't choose. And if you wish, open your eyes again. And Keisha, this would be a good time to go ahead and put me back on spotlight if you would. Thank you. Thanks everyone for welcoming each other. And I want to let you know that we welcome not only you, but also all of the complex feelings that you have as we go through grief. Um, I'll say just a little bit first about what we're going to be doing tonight, and then and then we'll launch in. We have 2 hours together. First, I want to just let you know that there's zero expectation for what you're going to do or not do. In fact, there is nothing to do. Maybe you'll write tonight, but maybe you won't. Um, all you bring is a willingness to show up, and friends, you've already done that. Here you are. Uh, if you brought your unwillingness, this is also okay. Some part of you, I don't doubt, is like, I don't know if I belong here. That tells me you actually belong here. Whatever you do tonight, I want to promise you can only do it right. But the other promise I have to make to you is that we are not going to fix anything tonight. That writing is not a way forward. It is not going to fix anything, but it is a way for us to see perhaps a glimmer of where we are right now. And the things that writing has helped me to do as I've moved through my own losses, well, that makes it sound like it's a done deal. The thing that writing has done for me as I continue to show up and meet loss, writing helps me to meet each moment as if it is a new moment. It helps me to be very curious about what's true now and notice how what's true now isn't necessarily what was true 5 minutes ago or 10 days ago or 4 years ago. And in this way, I start to see, oh, wow, look how grief has changed when sometimes in the midst of it, it doesn't seem as if it will ever change. Writing has helped me to question what I know is true by embracing paradox and seeing how sometimes what I think is true, sometimes the opposite is also true. And we'll have a chance to play with that a little bit tonight. Writing helps me to meet these opposite feelings at the same time, how I can be both deeply in love with the world and so angry at the same time. How is it possible? And yet I can tell you, and I'm guessing you know it is. And the other thing writing offers me is the chance to be very still, to just sit and feel. And as we I don't know if you're like me sometimes in an effort to not feel, not even a conscious effort, I'll just get busy and do and do and do and do and do. And one of the gifts of writing is that it allows us to, you're already sitting in a chair, friend. And while we're sitting in the chair, sometimes we are able to feel things that don't have the chance to rise up when we're off to do the next thing and the next and the next. So tonight, what we'll be doing, first, we're going to write a poem together. I'll explain how that works, very simple. And then we're going to read poems out loud, talk about them. I'll offer some writing invitations. We'll go off and have time to do our own writing. Then we'll come back and talk about process. We'll read another poem, talk about it, go off and do writing, come back. There will be a chance for sharing, but also you don't need to. I always want to make sure everyone knows that even so there is going to be an opportunity for you to go into small groups and share, there's also the opportunity for you to stay in the main room and talk about process, or just listen to a talk about process. If as quiet as quiet and unseen as you want to be, that's possible tonight. And if you really deeply want to be heard, this is also possible tonight. Uh, let's agree we're not going to write anything good. Okay? Let's just agree that not one of us is going to write anything good tonight. If you write at all, let's invite ourselves just to write something true, knowing that that's going to be possible for every one of us to write something true. And let's agree too, friends, that we're going to keep ourselves and each other safe. And by that, I mean we're going to treat each other with so much respect and create a tender space for ourselves and each other in which it's possible to be vulnerable and to take a risk. Writing is no small thing. It is a very courageous thing to show up to a blank page and say, okay, what's here? But I want to promise you can only do it right. You're going to feel what you feel. Grief is so different for every one of us. Grief is so different for us from moment to moment. So whatever happens tonight, that's exactly what was supposed to happen. So we're going to begin with what probably the most simple invitation that I have given myself. In the deepest part of my grief, I filled in this little sentence stem every single day. And that sentence stem is, today grief is. And I'm going to put it right now in the chat bar. It's that simple. Today grief is. And you can fill this in any way you wish. You could fill it in with an adjective. Today grief is lonely. You could fill it in with a metaphor. Today grief is an iceberg. You could fill it in with a verb. Today grief is running. Today grief is. So whatever you do, you can only do it right. I'm going to invite you to put your response in the chat bar, and I'll read them aloud to create kind of a spontaneous poem of the moment, and we'll see what we create together tonight. Today, grief is everywhere. It's heavy. It's my teacher. Today, grief is lonely. It's simmering on the back burner. Today, grief is expanding. It's fatigue. It's splitting me in half. Today, grief is waiting at the edge. It's quiet. It is deep love. It's confusing and frustrating. It's a snow angel. It's fluttery and crunchy. It's raw. It's resisting motivation. It's missing Bill. It is soft. It is anger. It is present. It is not wanting to feel. Today, grief is a memory I do not have. It's tiring and so hard. It's sitting at my side listening. It's taking a nap. Today, grief is rejection. It's numbing. 3G2 is KTV. Today, grief is playing across broken clouds. It's a shadow here. It's a pang in my heart. It's building a shell around me. It's a friend's beautiful poem and a bow to what is. Today, grief is informing family and close friends. It's exhausting. It's a long past. It's relief. It's teaching. It's orange as this hand blown glass from my childhood. It's in the clear sky. Today, grief is not being able to call you. It's blossoming. It's dealing and coping. It's nourished by the landscape. It's loneliness and heavy. It's remembering. Today, grief is my 5-year-old self. It's the family home going to closing. It's remarkable and a lump somewhere in my body, and it's numbing and it's taking my breath away. It's playing hide and seek. It's quiet but close by. It's at an arm's distance. It's enervating. It's muddy. It's holding my feet to the ground. It's punching me in the gut. It's my loving, difficult companion, a tuft of wool, brushing my fingers each time I put my hand in a pocket. It belongs to someone I know who lost her brother. It's surprise. It's an old enemy. It's ungrounded and scattered. It's a dead pheasant on the road, so beautiful but gone. Today, grief is a constant companion. It's shifting. It's hard. It's the infinite blue sky. It's a half-eaten piece of wedding cake. It's overwhelming. Today, grief is what we all share. It's our intimacy. Right. That was stunning, sweet friends. And I think it was a perfect example of exactly how it is, right? Just all of those shades of grief. Did you notice that it was that it reaches towards both ends? There was so much intimacy, and there was so much, feeling numb. There was the kind of the connection of it and the disconnect of it, the friendliness of it and the enemyness of it. It was so much, and this is the way it is with grief. So as we explore what it is today for you, know that all of that, that full range is possible, inviting yourself into whatever is here. So, the other thing I'll point out about that poem that we just wrote is that there was a beautiful, just sometimes it was very abstract and sometimes very concrete. And in this way, poetry really invites us into both of these realms, the realm of the body and the realm of the mind. And so I invite you into both those realms right now, your body and your mind, as well as your heart, of course. So, Keisha, if you would go ahead, please, and put up our first poem. It's by Mark Nepo, and I'll say this, that um, as as I've been writing around grief, I understand that there are really two kinds of grief poems. One of them is to write about grief itself, and the other is to write about the person or thing that we're grieving. And this first one is about grief itself. Jenna, I know you're putting up the slide. You've got it, honey? While Jenna's finding the slide, I'd appreciate it if two of you, please, would volunteer to read this first poem. And to do that, I'm going to need you to use the reactions bar. I'm not able to see your hand if you're holding it up. So if you would please just raise your hand using the reactions bar and let me know that you're willing to read the poem. And the first time that we listen to the poem, I'm going to invite you to pay deep attention, listen as if you could listen with your whole body. And then the second time we listen to the poem, lean back and do nothing at all and imagine that the poem is reaching toward you. Jenna, I'm not sure what's going on, but we're not able to see the whole poem there. If you're able to change it, so yes, there we go. It's getting closer, but still not quite. Other
Rosemary,
people.
does it need to be stretched on your end? Because I can
Yep,
see
I
it.
think that's me. Yep, that
Cool.
must be me. Okay. So thank you so much to Carol and to Breton for offering to share the to share the poem out loud with each other. And Carol first, reading the whole poem, and then Breton, and then we'll have a small conversation about it. Thank you.
The Life After Tears, Mark Nepo. In the life before tears, there are endless plans, and we would avoid the difficult feelings at all costs, as if grief, pain, and loss are canyons we'll never be able to climb out of. But then, one day, while not looking, someone dear dies, or dream breaks like a plate, or our world as we've known it is blown apart. Then we discover that falling in the canyon is our invitation, and the river at the bottom is the only water that will keep us alive. I wish it were different, but the reward for being hollowed out is that the song then sings us.
And Breton?
The life after tears. In the life before tears, there are endless plans, and we would avoid the difficult feelings at all costs, as if grief, pain, and loss are canyons we'll never be able to climb out of. But then one day, while not looking, someone dear dies, or dream breaks like a plate, or our world as we've known it is blown apart. Then we discover that falling in the canyon is our initiation, and the river at the bottom is the only water that will keep us alive. I wish it were different, but the reward for being hollowed out is that the song then sings us.
So beautiful. Thank you. Thanks to Breton and to our other reader. I appreciate you both so much. What do you notice? Anyone willing to? Again, I'll need you to raise your hand, please, using the reactions bar at the bottom of your screen. Or if you can't find the reactions bar, you could put your name in the chat bar and we'll help you get on. What do you notice, either about the poem itself or about your own response to it? And Caroline, and then Hillary.
Hello, thank you so much. It's such a powerful poem. The paradox, talk about the tension, which I have a hard time writing about, like the canyon, like we fall down and it's death. It feels like we're dying when something terrible happens, like what he says, someone dear dies, our dream breaks like a plate, our world as we've known it is blown apart. So we fall into the canyon, but it's our initiation, and the river at the bottom is the only water that will keep us alive. So there is basically no choice. There is no choice but to just go with the flow. That's why it's so powerful to be all together. Thank you to Jenna and you. I'm so deeply grateful. It's a very, very powerful poem. Thank you so much for choosing it.
Thank you, Caroline. Right. I love that you say this is why we come together, right? This is why, knowing that there isn't actually a choice, that this is something that we need to do, then to do it together is what helps make it possible, bearable. I can't imagine doing it alone. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else? I did see a hand up and now it's gone. There's Jean. Thank you.
Hi, the same part struck me, those two parts that Caroline mentioned. Um, I just couldn't help but feel, the anticipatory grief in the first section of what we imagine
Right.
and what we think that we're gonna fall in and we try to avoid it. And once we're in it, that's when, that initiation to me, it's like that's when it all really begins. We can't know, when we're trying to imagine it. And then the water keeping us alive to me is also the unexpected, the people that we meet within um, going through this that you would never have imagined before. That, what helps keep you going and alive and understood is something that you would never have imagined when you're in the first section and just thinking that you're going to be um, not going to be able to get up.
Yeah. Yeah. Jean, thank you so much for that. The different, there it is, right? There's the tension between our imagination and what's real. And also, I really like that you bring in again just this paradox of the water that we would avoid is the water we most need. Um, and there it is, that there's that tension. Nobody wants to know that, right? I wish it were different, he says. I wish it were different, but this is the truth. Thank you so much. Autumn and then Tom.
The not looking, the avoiding at all costs in the first stanza, and the not looking in the second stanza really grabbed me in the feeling like we have the option to not, but then absolutely being forced to. Uh, and the intensity of life, of the not looking or the looking away is avoiding all of life, not just grief. And then the falling into is actually falling into the juiciness and the trueness and the source of life itself.
Mm. Oh, Autumn, thank you for that. Not just falling into grief, but falling into the juiciness of life itself. That's so beautifully said. Thank you for that. Right. I mean, and thank you for pointing out that over and over and over again, Mark Nepo points out in this poem, you'd avoid it if you could. Like you don't. This is not something that we're asking for. It's not something we would ever want, and yet here it is, the invitation into the enormity of what it is to be human, which includes grief. Thank you for that. And Tom.
Thank you, Rosemary. That last line just really jumped into me. That the song then sings us. And in those moments of such bleakness and darkness, this is a line that I can remember and just open myself to the possibility of that song singing us.
Thank you. Thank you. How beautifully you said that and expressed that, and I and even transmitted that in the way you spoke. Thank you, Tom. It's reminding me, I think of Saint Francis, perhaps, as the one who has the prayer about "Let me be hollowed out, so that life, God can play me like a flute." And so I'm thinking of that here also. It's a terribly difficult prayer, hollow me out, empty me, or open me. And then what song is possible? A very different song in which we're being sung, right? I'm noticing the difference between us singing the song and the song singing us, in which we become a participant, in which life is singing through us as opposed to us being the in charge. Yeah, thank you so much. What beautiful comments, friends. Julie Rome, this will be our last comment before we do some writing. Hi, friend.
Hi, everybody. I really love this poem. To me, the process of the poem was a statement of part of my process in grief. I could stop at the end of each stanza and say, okay, but then, and then, okay, and then I get to the last one. And when I was reading it, I said, I wish it were different. Stop. Full stop. Because I spent so much time saying, I wish it were different. And then I could admit maybe there was a reward. And then we get to the the reward for being hollowed out, and I have to stand there for a little bit, and then the song that sings us. So it's like the process of grief, a little bit, awake, awake, pause. Thank
Oh, I love the way you even danced that for us a little bit, Julie. Thank you for that. Thank you. And just for tying the poem itself to the actual process of meeting our grief and how it changes. And I was also stopped by this. I wish it were different because I do too. And then I also don't. So that's an interesting thing, and there's that paradox again. I wish it were different. I'm glad it's not different. Like, not that I long for the grief itself, no, but I'm grateful for what it is to show up so wholly, and to feel life in this exceptionally raw way. So, friends, I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat bar right now. I thank everyone who shared their ideas about the poem with us. And Jenna's going to put in the chat and the screen, and I've just put in the chat bar some ideas for doing some writing based on this poem. And let me just say this: these are just ideas that you don't need to follow them. If something else rises up, for heaven's sakes, please do whatever is rising up for you. And Jenna, are you there? It is. So here are some ideas. Idea one: how has your relationship with grief changed? What was it like in the life before? What are you discovering about that relationship now? That's one idea. Or perhaps begin with this line that we've talked so much about: I wish it were different. Write about what it is like now to live with grief. Perhaps there is a but. I wish it were different, but maybe there's not. Maybe it's I wish it were different, and just follow from there. And the last idea, begin with after I fell in the canyon of grief, and then just see where that takes you. 3 ideas. Once again, no need to follow through with any of them. Whatever rises up for you, even if it's just to sit there without writing a word, that's exactly the right thing to do. In all cases, friends, you can only do it right, and we'll be back in 17 minutes, so at 50 minutes after the hour. I'll give you a 1-minute notice that we're coming back together. and a little less than a minute. Welcome back. Welcome back, friends. So we have a chance now to talk for about 10 minutes about what did you notice about yourself, about your process. This isn't reading what you wrote, no, but sharing what you noticed about this process of showing up with the page and what happened, what didn't happen. Were you surprised? Did you have a body? So often I don't. When I'm writing, I forget completely. Once again, I'll ask you to please use the reactions bar to raise your hand so I can find you. And Joanne, hi friend, nice to see you. You're on mute, sweetheart. Oops, you're still on mute, darling.
Okay. I'm too excited about what I was going to say. Anyway, I like your hair. But one of the things, and I'm noticing more and more now, I'm retired, so I have much more musing time. Like I just have space. And one of the things I thought of a couple days ago, I wonder if it's really true. It feels like grief has significantly shifted and become lighter.
Mm.
And tonight, when I wrote the poem, I really could see that in it. That, yeah, it's changed. It's been a few years since I had a large change, a big change in my life. And I noticed that, yeah, it's just changed. It's not that, it's still paradoxical and it's still a little unpredictable, but in very different ways. I'd say kind of calmer ways.
Wow, I love that you're talking about it this way. I mean, first of all, it's interesting to me just the way that you approached it. Oh, I wonder if it's true. Has it changed? And just letting yourself wonder about the truth of it, right? Is that true? Has it changed? And then, just like I was suggesting, maybe as possible, as was true, is true for me, that writing is a way for me to have this kind of a barometer of, oh, look, it isn't the same way it was, and guess what? And it won't be the same tomorrow, But just this way that writing can show us, yes, things are different now than they were. Thank you so much, Joanne, for sharing that. And we'll have Quilly and then Susie.
So it's been a long time since the death of my son, and I spent a good decade processing the grief intensely with a teacher. And I felt like I really don't cry anymore or ache or anything. So I sat down and I just remembered what you said is right, what you feel now. And it just flowed right out of how I feel now. And then when I finished, I read it and it wasn't sad or, oh, if only you were here or any of that kind of feeling, but yet, and it was quite a profound experience and it was so easy.
Mm.
Yeah. So thank
Quilly,
you.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love that you had that experience. I also want to say, friends, that if that was not your experience, if you did not have an experience of ease or that this
No.
is also totally fine. But isn't it amazing, Quilly, that you had this experience,
Yes, it
that
was.
it's changed and that there is this sense of
Yes,
ease, that there wasn't a longing that was unmet in this moment. Um, and
right.
thank you so much for sharing that. That's so powerful. And we'll have Susie next and then Monica.
We lost our daughter Charlie about 5 months ago, and I really appreciated writing with the line after I fell in the canyon of grief. And I was surprised at how I thought in the beginning. I think one of the things that I really appreciated is writing without expecting what's gonna come out. And so I felt like that was really gonna be very sad, but I was surprised at how when I wrote, I felt like there was both sides. Like there was both a sadness, but then also like the things that have happened, like the bittersweet of it. So that was surprising to me, and I appreciated that.
Thank you, Susie. Thanks for bringing Charlie's name in also. And I just want to appreciate that you had this capacity to wonder what happens if I go in without an expectation, right? And the gift that we give ourselves when this happens, so that you could be like, oh, that's what's here, and that you could experience both very different feelings at the same time. That it wasn't this kind of as scary as you thought, and also it sounds like there was some of that too. That it was really both. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll have Monica and then Linda.
Um, I lost my son Jonathan in September, and as I started to write, I was trying to think about life before he died, and the grief that was still present in my life before he died, and what that looked like versus this new fresh grief. And I kind of decided to use a metaphor about a coat. So I wrote about I, I just wrote about what it feels like with and without a coat, and if it's too cold and too hot, and how am I going to figure out what to wear that day depending on the level of grief. And so it felt kind of um, not refreshing, but lifting to think that yes, there was grief before, and now there's new grief, and there are days and times when it's more intense, but there also remains a constant of figuring out how one is going to get through the day in different ways and coping. So it was a good exercise for me.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you for bringing in your son. And also, I just want to point out how this is using metaphor, right? This is one of the most important parts of my own ways of showing up to meet grief. If we could have plugged it into my little, sentence stem today, grief is a coat, right? And then noticing how um, just this, when do I need it and when do I not? And in this way, by making it a coat or making it a fall or whatever it is that we're making it this other thing, the metaphor is actually part of what allows us to see it in a new way. We're like, okay, well, how is grief a coat? How does it matter if I put it on or I don't, or what I choose to do? So I just love that you just modeled for us so beautifully about how that can happen and how that can inform what we didn't know about how we were showing up today for grief. Thank you for that. We'll have Linda and then Mary Beth, and that will be all we'll have time for.
Well, I wanted to share something about my writing very similar to what you just said about metaphor, except about the words, because I chose to write about I wish it were different because I immediately had such a strong reaction to that because it was so mild. Um, I lost my husband of 50 years in August, so it's still pretty new for me. And my refrain has been, I want you back. I want you back. I want you back, which is very different than it just in the words themselves. Then I wish it were different. And so the exercise really helped me focus on that difference and how you could, I mean, they're also kind of the same, but for me, why was I saying, I want you back? And with the emphasis on I instead of it were different, right? It was very much about me and him, and the the way I came to understand that was really I need a relationship now with myself, I guess is what I ultimately came to. Because I can see ways in which, I mean, obviously I can't have him back. And so what is it that I do want? It came to that. So I still want to say, I want, with lots of affirmation. But so it got me to all that. So thank you.
Oh, Linda, that's so powerful. Just wondering into what is it that I want? What is it that I want now? And really noticing the difference between I want you back and I wish it were different, which one seems much more intense and focused. I want you back. One feels a little bit more, has a little bit more remove. I
Yeah.
wish it were different.
Yeah.
And this is another thing writing can offer us, right? Is both actually, is intimate, that intimacy and also that little bit of remove. And in this way, we get to really understand ourselves, our relationship to grief, and our relationship with this other person, in this case, your husband. Thank you for bringing him in very different ways. Thank you so much, Linda. Mary Beth, this will be our last comment before we read another poem.
Hi, everyone. So I'm um, grieving the loss of two children this year. And I was really surprised with my writing because, you know, I mean, obviously we're all here because of a loss of some kind, but I was surprised in the writing that I'm actually grieving the um, the lack of relationship I have with my mother because she's not showing up for me. And I've known that as an adult that she isn't my go-to, like she can't be there for me, but it's like if you lose two children and your mother still can't show up for you, it's like that's a whole other loss. So that's what came up for me. It was really quite a surprise that I've been carrying that part with me. Um yeah, it's just it's shining a big bright light on some major dysfunction that's been there forever. But yeah, thank you for hearing me, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Beth. I hope you were able to see as you were speaking, there were so many heart emojis floating through our screen, that you're certainly being heard. And thank you for bringing up that it's not just one loss, that one loss calls to other losses. And then how the writing allowed you to see into this other loss. As you said so beautifully, it's shown a bright light, a really bright light on this other loss that you, it sounds like, have been experiencing for a long time. So I'm just noticing all these layers of loss. Thank you so much for bringing that up and sharing that with us. Thank you to everyone who spoke. I'm so grateful for you all. So we're going to look at another poem. And in fact, this next one is one that I wrote about a recent loss, my beautiful friend Kira, who died December 23rd. And once again, I'm going to ask, please, for two volunteers to read this poem. I'm putting it in the chat bar right now, and also Jenna's got it up on our screen. Oops, not quite yet, but almost. There it is. Two readers. We have Deb and Christina. Thank you so much, both of you.
Dear Clara, here you are in the scent of chocolate beef cake. that lingers in the kitchen hours after the cake is done, as if the world conspires to prove how something we can't see or touch can still be so present. I remember the first time you made the recipe for us, how outrageous it seemed to add roasted beets to a cake. Now it's our favorite, dark and rich with deep pink frosting. Every time we make it, we think of you, like tonight, as Vivian and I bake a birthday cake for Timothée Chalamet. We celebrate his life even as we mourn your death. Isn't it always all of it at once? For days I've been lighting candles for you in the windows, letting time blow them out. Today, I trace your handwritten notes on the recipe with my fingertips, like using less sugar and subbing coconut oil for butter, plus suggestions for how to make the frosting more fancy. I feel as if you've left handwritten notes in my heart, like bake more cakes, substitute kindness for annoyance, plus suggestions for how to make music in the hardest times. I don't know how it works, but if you can make a wish, these candles are for you. I will keep lighting them. It's dark, my dear, and your life is still so bright.
Baking cake on December 27th. Dear Kira, here you are in the scent of chocolate beet cake that lingers in the kitchen hours after the cake is done, as if the world conspires to prove how something we can't see or touch can still be so present. I remember the first time you made the recipe for us. How outrageous it seemed to add roasted beets to a cake. Now it's our favorite, dark and rich with deep pink frosting. Every time we make it, we think of you, like tonight, as Vivian and I bake a birthday cake for Timothée Chalamet. We celebrate his life even as we mourn your death. Isn't it always all of it, all at once? For days, I've been lighting candles for you in the windows, letting time blow them out. Tonight, I trace your handwritten notes on the recipe with my fingertips, like using less sugar and subbing coconut oil for butter, plus suggestions for how to make the frosting more fancy. I feel as if you've left handwritten notes in my heart, like bake more cakes, substitute kindness for annoyance, plus suggestions for how to make music in the hardest times. I don't know how it works, but if you can make a wish, these candles are for you. I will keep lighting them. It's dark, my dear, and your life is still so bright.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for sharing that poem and for reading it. And once again, I'm going to invite a conversation about the poem itself, or about your own response to it. And someone in the chat bar has asked, "Can you share the recipe in the follow-up email?" You bet I will. I'll send a picture of the recipe with Kira's handwriting on it to Jenna, and I think she should be able to send that out to you all. Um, Anyone willing to share, what do you notice about the poem or about your response to the poem? And Carol.
Thank you for sharing the recipe, and Jenna for the sharing, taking a photo of it, Rosemary, and sharing it. My response when I first read this in your email a week or two ago, whenever you sent it, or whenever I got to reading it, was a reminder of a beet soup recipe that was my mother-in-law's that I was making the same day that I was reading your poem. And my husband passed 7 years ago, and his mother, although I met her once before she died, not long after we married, was by then so deep into Alzheimer's that she essentially did not meet me. And so when I read this poem and hearing it so beautifully read out loud just now, it just touched me with specific memories of my own, of because it was a beet cake and because mine was beet soup, and because food and recipes and memories of scents in the kitchen or even flowers in the backyard can be so strongly tied to people that we love and people who are no longer here. So just the detail of it and the fact that Kira will live on each time you think about or make this cake. And the last thing I'll say is I love that you and Vivian wanted to celebrate Timothy Chalamet's birthday.
Thank you, Carol. In fact, it's something we started doing the year my son died. We started celebrating Timothy Chalamet's birthday. It was a way to bring some light into such a dark time. Thank you for pointing out too. Each of us is going to receive a poem so differently, and the fact that you also happen to have a memory of honoring a loved one with beets. And all of us, I think, have, well, not all of us, but there are ways that food helps to bring someone back into our lives, and that we end up honoring them each time we make this food and share it with other people. We'll have Sam and then Charlotte.
The line that stood out to me, both the first time I read it and this time, is, "Isn't it always all of it at once?" Because that's so true. And I also loved the idea of tracing her handwritten notes, um, as if she had left you notes as sort of a guidance for life. Um, and I wonder if all of those who have passed have left us each some type of note in their own way.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful wondering, Sam. Thank you for that. In fact, that'll tie into one of the writing invitations that I offer. So I love that you brought that up specifically that way. Thank you. And right, that line, "Isn't it always all of it all at once?" I'm just pointing out that that's a line that has no image. There's no sense of the body in that. That's just a telling line that's wondering, a question about what is it to be alive, right there in the middle of the poem. We'll have Charlotte and then Hillary.
Hi, Rosemary. So I just loved the ending because I work with mothers who have lost children to substance use disorder or suicide. And one of the things that we do when we have our retreats is we light candles and just call forth the names of our children to create this portal of light between us and between them. And at some point I just got really clear that we have a job to do, and our job is to shine our light to them. Like, we always think of our loved ones on the other side shining their lights down on us, but we also have a responsibility to shine our lights up to them. And that's what I kind of got when with that line, "I will keep lighting them." And also then the recognition of how bright her light is shining on you. And that was just really touching to me. So thank you.
Oh, Charlotte, thank you. And thanks for sharing, first of all, that story of this. How do we do that, right? How are we the ones who shine our light to them? I love that way of just reframing that we're carrying their light, that they're carrying ours, they're shining us light, we're shining to them, and the reciprocity of that. The paradox, I suppose, of it too, how beautiful that is. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. We'll have Hillary and then Karen, and I think that's all we'll have time for.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so moved by this conversation. And for me, I think, well, what I was noticing first is it made me cry. And I was thinking about how, like, I think after my mom passed, I don't even think I really knew how much I loved her until she was gone. Like I knew I loved her when she was alive, but like the intensity of that love is so contributed to the grief that's there. And like in a way that like reading this poem and reading about Kira and like saying like here you are in the kitchen to like know that feeling in my body, to be able to relate to that is like changed my whole experience of relating to other humans. Like I cry when people tell me about people that they love, whether or not they've lost them or not. It just makes me cry because of how powerful it is to even risk loving anyone at all and to feel that that sense of loss. And then also just like the way I love it with the line after done, like or yeah, like this here you are. And like for me, the presence of my mom has shown up in such surprising places that I wasn't even expecting. And it's like this like, oh, here you are, like in places where I was searching or not. And like the only way that's able to happen is that sometimes it's there, she's very present, sometimes she's not, and this like oscillation, I guess, of that feeling, but like really honoring when the dead show up and those experiences. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Hillary. First of all, for pointing out, yes, just what a risk it is to love someone else. Thank you for that. Thank you. And also, yes, it's so surprising where they show up, right? Oh, you're in the beet cake. Oh, now you're in the kitchen. Oh, now you're on the highway. Oh, now you're in this song. Yeah, thank you. And how love can grow after the person we're grieving dies, which is something I did not know before I knew, right? Thank you for pointing to that. Thank you. Our last person is Karen, then we'll do some more writing.
Thank you. Um, I'm in a situation of anticipatory grief at this moment. In fact, yesterday my husband passed out in the shower and I had to call the ambulance. He has Alzheimer's, kidney disease, and type 2 diabetes. Not in my mind, but in my heart, I've been noticing but not acknowledging to my intellect a progression over the last year or so. And in fact, we missed our renal clinic appointment because he was in the ER instead. The two things that came out to me in the poem was, isn't it always all of it all at once? And that was so yesterday. The sense of, when I look back on it, it's the responsibility to keep him alive. He fell on my watch. Are his numbers going down? His function is now from 16 gone in 3 months to 8%. Because I'm not feeding him right. You know, like how much less salt is there? You know, all these sorts of things. But an emergency has that feeling of being buried in an avalanche, and yet this sense of total clarity at the same time. It's so weird that the sort of the highest and the deepest elements are activated at the same time. They're concurrent, and I don't know how we hold that. I don't know how I hold that in my body. On my way to hospital, I went down the elevator, and someone else's child is how I saw this boy. He was about 30. Said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm on my way to hospital. My husband took a fall." And then he said, "Do you need a hug?" And I said, "Yes." And I just fell down weeping in his arms. I don't know who he is, except he then gave me his information. But it's though an angel was sent on my path to say, this is not unnoticed. You are known. And the other line that really spoke to me was, I don't know how it works. I don't know how that works. How does this young man end in the elevator with me at 9:30 in the morning? He should have been at work. In my opinion, he should already be on the job site. But he was there, and he reached out, and our ER doctor was amazing, and in his opinion, Tony has weeks, months if he's fortunate, and we did not know. And dialysis will not help him. So in a deep place in my heart, there is gratitude because I see mercy in his story, that he's not going to drag out in Alzheimer's, but a physical illness will relieve him before. This is a man with a doctorate in nuclear physics who had a handle on everything, who at bedtime didn't even remember he was in the hospital.
Thank you, Karen. Thank
It's
you.
a strange journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the community, we hold each other, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing about Tony, and thank you for sharing about this young man who showed up, and thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. Thank you for sharing your hearts and your vulnerability, your openness, your ache, your love. So I'm putting in the chat bar right now some writing invitations. Jen is going to put them up onto the chat, onto the screen. And here are some ideas based out of this poem, but of course, anything that shows up for you. What food reminds you of the one you're grieving? Describe the food, perhaps a memory of them with it, and what is it like to eat or prepare it now? That's idea one. Idea two, imagine the person you are grieving has handwritten notes in the margins of your heart. What would they write there? Perhaps begin, in the margins of my heart you have written. Or maybe I wish you would have written. That would be honest too. Whatever you do, of course, always make it true. The last idea is to write a letter to the person you're grieving and tell them something about the day you're having and what you're doing, and ask them at least one question that will go unanswered. There's 3 ideas, friends. We have a little bit of a shorter time now. I guess, oh, it's tough. Let's come back at 33 minutes after the hour. Again, whatever you do, you can only do it right. And one more minute. Welcome back. All right, so friends, what happens next is a chance to share in a small group or a chance to stay in the main room. If you stay in the main room, we will talk about process, not sharing what we wrote, but talking like we did earlier about what we noticed about ourselves, about what shows up when we sit down to write. If you go into a small group, then I actually have some pretty strong rules. I tell you, you can only do it right when you're writing. But when it comes to coming together and sharing, please do follow exactly as I say now. I want you to promise me that no one would do anything that sounded anything like critique. We are not here to critique each other. We're not trying to write perfect poems or make great works of art. We're here to explore our own losses and to support each other in their tenderness too. So, to that end, the ways that we're going to respond to each other are this. If you do go into a small group, there will be 2 or 3 of you in a room. We're going to cue you timing wise for 2 people or for 3 people. If you're in a room of 2, then you're going to have to go a little bit on your own. And Jenna will come in after 5 minutes and tell you, hey, time to change. So you won't have to worry about timekeeping. If you are the speaker, here are some things you could do. You could share a poem that you wrote tonight. You could even read it twice. Or perhaps you share both things that you wrote tonight. Or maybe you share not the full piece, but just a little bit, just the part that feels like, yes, I could share just this, even if it's just one sentence. Or maybe you don't share anything at all that you wrote, but you say, I'd like to talk about my process. You could do that. Or you could say, I am just here to listen. All of these are beautiful ways for you to show up in that role of the speaker. If you're the listener, that is exactly what you're there to do, to listen, to receive, to reflect back your attention. And if there is a chance at all to respond, then the only ways we're going to respond are with open, honest questions, which is to say, questions that help the reader or speaker to be curious about their own process. And I'm going to put in the chat bar right now what those questions might be. Questions like, what did you notice? In fact, you could write that down right now, friends. If that's the only question you asked, that would be perfect. What did you notice? You could ask it again and again, and it will always be interesting for the person who's the speaker. But other questions might be, what surprised you about the process? Were you ever stuck? What did you do then? What part of this writing feels most true to you? What part was most difficult to write? Where else do you think this might want to go? What did you notice about your own writing as you were sharing it? What questions do you have about your own process? Or perhaps repeat a line that they said and say, tell me about that. Those are all really beautiful ways to respond to another person after they're done sharing, if there's a chance for you to respond at all. Really, I want you to notice not one of these is saying, I like the part where, not one of them is you talking about your own experience. We don't talk about our own, we're not giving advice. All you do, if you say anything at all, is thank you, thank you. And then you could ask a question about their process or about their poem. Before we go into small groups, I'll say this. You will get an invitation to go into a small group. You don't have to. If you want to go into the small group, then just go ahead and accept that invitation. It could be that you end up in a room all by yourself just for a little bit. Don't worry, Keisha is going to be on it and she's going to be making sure that everybody finds themselves in a room with at least one, maybe two other people. If you don't ever have anyone show up after a few minutes, give her at least a couple of minutes, then you can come back into the main room and say, help. I didn't have anybody. In the main room, I'll just say one other thing about I guess that's all there is to say, except for this. Before we go into the small groups, please repeat these words after me. Right there out loud in your own space. Are you willing to listen with the ears of your heart to the other voices of yourself speaking? That is an adaptation from Bill Plotkin of the Animus Institute. And with that beautiful promise to yourself and to each other, I invite you to go into a small group or not, to just stay right in here. You'll have 2 minutes while Keisha's moving things around, and then we'll start sharing. We'll let you know when it's time to change speakers.
Rosemary, how long would you like them to be in the breakout?
Yeah, 5 minutes. Well, so it'd be 17 minutes total.
Okay.
2 minutes for switching around and then 5 minutes for each speaker.
And they're open.
Thank you, Keisha. All right, so Keisha is going to be moving folks around, and in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for a conversation right here in this room, but I am going to also let you know just in advance that we're going to need to let we're going to need to stop our conversation so that Jenna can break in and tell people, hey, it's time to change speakers. So if I stop you, don't worry, you'll have a chance to jump right back in again. So if anyone has a question or something that you're noticing about yourself, your process, this is a perfect time to bring that up. And also, Keisha, as soon as you're done, will you let us know? And then Jenna can let folks know, hey, this is the official start time. Great. Hey, Kim, nice to see you, friend.
Thank you, Rosemary. Nice to see you. I went with the idea of writing a letter to my son who passed a few years ago. And that didn't quite happen. I went into the margins of my heart, and I really I realized what I had wanted him to say, not more what I needed to tell him, but what I wished I'd heard from him in return. Like, it wasn't my fault that you passed. It wasn't, you couldn't have changed anything. And I almost needed like his blessing from the other side, as opposed to tell him anymore, because I've been talking to him for so long, and I just really needed something back from him. And even if it was only imaginal, to write that list out was a real gift, because, and I was grateful for the opportunity to have that tiny little shift in perspective and give myself a little grace, because that's been the hardest thing to do.
Thank you, Kim. Hold on one moment. Keisha, are you done switching around in the rooms? Jenna, you want to just jump in and just say, hey, time to start, first speaker?
Hi, friends. It's time to start with the first speaker. Thank you.
Thanks, sweetheart. So we'll just make them like 12 and a half minutes or 4.5 minutes ish, since they won't have, there's 13, 14 minutes when you said that ish. Great. So Kim, I'm so glad that you bring this up, just the difference between us writing to them and then the power of this imaginal voice coming back to us. This is what I most need to hear. Um, that's so potent and so powerful. And also, what I heard that interests me is how you went in thinking, oh, this is what I'll do. And then what wanted to happen is what happened, right? What you most needed. And that you let yourself be open to that experience of just, okay, I'll go here. I'll follow this. Um, yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Caroline and then Charlotte.
Um, I've been following the mystery of grief since March, I think, and I can see like today, it's the first time where I feel I can breathe and give myself all the space that nobody gave me, or nobody really offered me during all these years of grief. So I am standing on my 2 feet, and I am able through this writing to give myself the space and revisit what happened while not going crazy. So the writing is not beautiful. You always say it's not about writing anything good. It's a very strange writing, but it's a writing where at the end I'm able to say, but there is all of this, but I'm still here standing on my 2 feet. And maybe that's enough that I'm still here, breathing and being willing to continue this path. So it's been 9 months, 9 months of Evermore Mystery of Grief with the extraordinary Rosemerry Wahtola Trommer. This is big, Rosemerry. I'm so deeply grateful. It took a lot, and I'm deeply indebted to your brilliance and to everybody here sharing, holding each other. This is big. Thank you so much to everybody. And Jenna.
Oh, Caroline, thank you so much. I want to reflect that I heard that you, that you have been showing up and inviting yourself to show up again and again and again. Um, and the shift then tonight, oh, tonight I'm standing on my own 2 feet, you say. And just that split moment of, okay, but I'm standing on my own feet and giving yourself the space to show up however you show up. That's so beautiful. That's so powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing just for all these months. Thank you for being so present with what's here and what isn't here, with what you wish would be happening and what's really happening. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Just checking our time real quick. How are we doing, Jenna?
We have a little over 1 minute left.
Okay, all right. Charlotte, go ahead. Jump on in.
So, kind of following off a little bit what Kim said, but kind of the opposite. Ever since the day that I got the call from the coroner that my son died, a psychic friend of mine called me from Boston and said, "Your son is here, and he's just wants to talk to me. And should I talk to him? This is unusual." And I said, "Yeah, I know my son. He would find an open channel. Go ahead, talk to him." So anyway, he said, "Mom, pick up the pen." That was his first words. "Pick up the pen and we will speak through the pen." Well, what I didn't expect was poems started pouring through me. And I had never really written poetry before. And it was like every day I was getting like 3 and 4 poems. It was like incredible. But it slowly kind of started stopping. Then I started writing with some crafted support and some writing groups and whatever, and learning to, write. And then, but anyway, but now, so like tonight, I tried writing him a letter again, because that's what I used to do is, write him and then get the responses. And I wrote him again, but it was more my imagination of, well, maybe this would be a response or maybe that. So it's not the same as it was early on. And it's kind of driving me crazy. I long for the because it was so effortless. It was so just real. And now it feels like,
Charlotte, I'm just going to pause you for a sec,
yeah.
okay?
Sorry. Thank you, Charlotte. Hi, friends. It's time to change speakers now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.
So I'm just curious from your perspective, Rosemerry, like, when you hit these kind of like dry spells or when the writing shifts dramatically, or, how do you kind of gracefully move through that with acceptance? Because I find myself frustrated a little bit.
Right, right. Oh, sweet friend. Um, here's exactly what I do. I say, "Oh, hello, frustration. Oh, hello, wishing it were different. Oh,
Yeah.
hello, this is hard," right? And what I'm hearing, I can't help but hear that there's this secondary grief of grief used to be like this and now it's not, and the grief of the grief being different itself, which isn't that just so interesting too? Um, I want to promise you this, that our relationship with writing will change and change and change and change and change. And that the way it is now is exactly that. It's the way it is now. And sometimes it does just flow. And isn't that wonderful? And I think we get into this idea it's supposed to be like that, because actually it's kind of pleasant when it's like that.
Yeah.
There is also, I notice for myself, um, I mean, after how many years of writing every day, right? And it's not just writing about grief, but this is just about writing in general, that sometimes it isn't so simple, and then we do sit there and feel like, why is nothing coming? And we struggle and struggle and struggle, and there's this kind of black hole. I used to think that was a problem, and now I want to tell you, I don't think that's a problem. I think it's just what it is. This is how it is, and when it's like that, oh, today it's like this. I mean, I understand the longing for it to be different. Of course I do. I know that feeling myself. This is when it's time for me to be so gentle with myself and so gentle with writing itself and say, oh, okay, okay. I still write every day, right? That's the promise I
Yeah.
make myself. I'll write.
Right.
Today I will write. I'll write something. That's why it's so important to say, I'll just write something true. Even if that something true is, I wish it were different.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I
Okay.
could hear you the way I used to.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Now, and all of a sudden, when we start touching the truth again, it's not necessarily that it opens up this full channel, but it does. uh, I mean, I almost felt it in you just in that moment, and I felt it in me too when I said it. When we touch the truth, all of a sudden there's this release, this relaxing that happens
Right.
because we're not trying to make it different anymore. We're on board with the way it is.
Yeah. 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 Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thanks for bringing that in. I know you're absolutely not alone, of course. I'm certain that many other people here, we could all raise our hands, had a difficult time. We're like, why is it harder right now? I wish it weren't harder. I wish that were easier. I wish it just flowed. Thank you so much for speaking to that. And Christina, thanks so much.
Thank you, Rosemary. You're such a wonderful, joyful part of my life, and I appreciate you so much. And Caroline, I love your companions, just so you know. Um, I was writing about the margins and what I wish you would have written and what you did write about my parents. My first husband, who died 45 years ago, he took his own life 45 years ago. And then I realized that I was waiting for my estranged 48-year-old daughter to write in the margins of my heart.
No.
And
Christina, I'm so sorry. Hold
it's
on
okay.
one moment. Jenna?
We have a minute and 20 seconds.
Sweetheart, except there's only 4.5 minutes left, so that
Oh,
would mean the last person only had 3 minutes.
oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, I'll make it. Hi, friends. It's time to change speakers. Thank you.
Thanks, sweetheart. Okay, Christina, I'm so sorry. So you were
So
saying
I
about your
realized,
daughter.
yeah, and I realized that that's almost harder than my parents being gone. And I mean, they lived to 89 and 92. My sister lived to 85. It's almost harder because she's there, she's alive, but I don't know how she is. So I appreciate that you brought that out for me, Rosemerry. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. You brought that out, right? You were the
Yeah.
one who showed up for this.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you pointing to this. And I know that you're not the only person in this room who's experiencing how there are some losses. The loss of somebody who's alive can be even greater than the loss of someone who is no longer physically present. I
Right now, that
really,
is.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right now, that's bigger than any loss by death that I have experienced.
Yeah, yeah, so painful. And I thank you for speaking to that. And also the way you said what you actually wrote and wish you would write, and just honoring the difference between these two, right? Again, the power of pointing to what is true, what is really here versus what we want. And that tension is, oh, it's so important to notice, and it can rip us up, right? And it also, the relief of being able to say, oh, but this is what's really here. This is what's really happening also. So I thank you for bringing that in. Tom, I noticed you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the prompt that made it so concrete, because it's been 7 weeks since my brother took his life. And it was so hard and bleak for the first 2 or 3 weeks. I was just lost. And then I started to come out and move to other ways. And now, after 7 weeks, I find it so much, I'm more in my head now and more feeling like, okay, it's not like I've got this, but okay, the path is clearer now. It's easier now. And tonight, just bringing me right down like this. And then when you did that about food, I just started writing about all the foods we had and all the wonderful times. And I realize now from that I can there are ways that I can give myself my own prompts so I can keep it very tangible. And so that was just a huge gift. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Tom, first, thank you for sharing about your brother. And I also am struck by this, and I know the truth of it myself, the difference between grieving from the head and grieving from the
Mm,
body,
yeah.
and how the mind can will create walls or smooth
Yeah.
over, and how the body remembers in a whole different way.
Yeah.
So when we can bring the body in any sensual way, whether it's through taste or touch, the last
Mm,
time I touched you, or one thing that you used to say all the time, or the song that we used to dance together with, or
mm,
what, all of these ways of inviting our bodies into that physical memory,
mhm.
and how potent that can be from keeping it as like an intellectual exercise.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much for speaking to that. And this is why I so often say, did you have a body? Do you have a body? Can you bring your body in? And when we
Mm,
bring our bodies into our writing practice, it can change it so profoundly.
mm,
Um, the body is able to remember, is able to process in such different ways than the mind. I'm not vilifying the mind, for heaven's sakes. No, please
mm,
let's bring our bodies and our minds
yeah.
along. Thank you so much, Tom.
Mm.
Friends, we have just, I guess, about 6 seconds before folks coming back in. So that'll be our last comment. Thank you. And friends, welcome back. Welcome back to the bigger circle again. So, we have just a few moments left, and in these few moments, first, I want to thank Evermore. Evermore is the organization that makes this possible. I'm so grateful for all the work they do for bereavement. Jenna told us a few of the things that they do when we were starting, and I know that Keisha is able to put in the chat bar some information about Evermore, and also about if you would like to take a class like this again. At the end of our class, not just yet, but at the very end, we'll put up a QR code, and you can just hold up your phone and you can see how you register for these in the future. So in these last few minutes, I want to invite you to think about, what are you taking away from our time together tonight? My friend Augusta calls these pearls. My friend Sarah likes to say, what gift was received or what need was met? You could think of it in any or all three of these ways. And go ahead and write it down for yourself. Or you can write it in the chat bar also. That's also a lovely way to share. And if you would like, you could also raise your hand and share a pearl with everyone else. I'm reading right now from the chat bar. The community of grief and deep love. The gift of taking a risk. Grateful for a beautiful session, for deep sharing, for kindness. Grateful for sharing and learning. I'm okay and I have some tools. Love and grief travel together, and we are not alone. Leaning in, I have forgiven my young self. Gratitude to share in grief, to know I'm not alone in my loss and what it feels like to be human. Gratitude for being held in my grief by others who also know, and knowledge I'm not alone in grief. I can breathe. Connection and the unexpected that comes in a safe space. The surprising way every meeting brings up why it needs to come up and being around people who understand. Feeling deep grief in the presence of others who are also feeling it. Thank you, friends, for all of these. You might want to keep reading through them. And before we go, I'm going to invite you to sing along with me again, the same song that we sang at the beginning. You'll get this poem that I'm singing from Gregory Orr, plus all of the poems, plus the recording, plus all of the invitations that will all come to you in the next day or two from Jenna and Evermore. But if you would, go ahead and sing along. And if you don't like singing, that's okay. You don't have to sing, of course. You could just hum along or just feel the vibration of it. But I'll sing again these words from Gregory Orr, and I'll leave a little space for you to sing right after me, call and response like. Growing through grief, this deepening we didn't choose. 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 Thank you, friends. Thank you. I know Keisha's going to put the QR code up on the screen for you to register for future gatherings. And please do visit evermore.org. We're so grateful for you joining us tonight. If you want to unmute and say thank you, that would be wonderful. Actually, it's Jenna, I think. Jenna, you're the one who has to put up the slide, sweetheart.
Oh, I need
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rosemary. Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Keisha.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Sharing.
You.
Thank
Baby Grace
you
says,
all.
good
Big
grief.
blessings.
Bye,
Good
everyone. Thank
grief.
you for
Thank
your.
you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Right.
Got it. It wouldn't change. I just kept pushing it over and over. I'm like, do it, move. There it is. There it is. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Keisha. Thanks,
Thank
everybody
you.
here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Keisha. Thanks,
Thank you
Evermore.
all. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Hmm.
All right. I'm gonna turn
I'm so grateful that James Cruz introduced me to you, Rosemerry.
Oh, sweet James Cruz.
Oh, he's mad.